see you, hater. My motivator. Y'all make me greater. Yeah.
Since we finished up the body work, I decided to go ahead and spray some test runs on the paint, mix it up, make sure that's what we're looking for. Also, the door is scrubbing the fender here, so I'm gonna have to pull this fender out. I'm gonna get some fender bolts and kind of pull it out some on both sides. Let me open it up and show you. You can see where it nicked the prime at, where it was scrubbing. I don't want to start painting everything and don't fix this first, because if I do, it's just going to build up. Each coat I put on there is going to build up, so it's going to be a lot thicker than this. Let me show you. You can see it's about scrubbing now. Very little clearance, so I'm going to go to the part store and get some fender bolts. I better pull this out some. It's doing it on both sides. Also, I need some more spray paint, guide coat, then I can wet sand it. But first, we're gonna mix up the paint and spray these here. I gotta clean them up first because they've been sitting outside. Make sure that's what we're looking for as the paint color. We'll have to do a little body work on these. I guess we'll wash these up and get going. Just brought all my pieces on the inside. Trying to let them dry right now. Also came back from Lowe's with my guide coat, and number flat black spray paint. Also my fender washers. I might have said fender bolts or fender nuts or something like that, but I meant fender washers. Got a pack of those. I'm just going to use them as spacers to pull that fender out. So we're going to do that first before we jump on these pieces here. So let's take these out there and get that fender straight. Here's the bolt that I need to unloosen, which I already unloosened this. And I had these in there, but I'm not going to use them because they got that lip on them and they'll be sticking out like that. That's why when I got these fender washers, they'll be back here. So I'm going to have to take this bolt all the way loose so I can slide these in. I had to use quite a few washers to get it out like I want it. But it ain't scrubbing no more. Passenger side taken care of. Now we'll start prepping these up for paint. I could see the previous painter, they tried to hang these up and paint them. I know that was pretty much impossible because they're so flimsy. They'll be flapping all over the place trying to spray them hanging up. So we're going to spray them laying down. And I could see Got some kind of paint reaction. Looked like it was some water or something in the paint, because you can see the bubbles. I can just scrape the bubble up. So we got to sand these back down and get a solid foundation before we get started. This one here a lot worse. But I had primed these when I did the car, the body work. So I just gotta wet sand these side skirts. These aren't that bad, but I'm still gonna sand them down. And it's a piece that's chipped right here. Looks like it's a screw hole from the other piece, so I guess I'm gonna fiberglass this back and screw the hole back down through there. And we're gonna start off with some 180 grit sandpaper, getting this down. We'll sand it back down. I'll just be using some fiberglass filler, bundle glass by bundle. I'm just gonna put some here. Once it harden up, I'll shape it back up and I'll build it back up a little bit thicker. Filled up with the fiberglass filler. Also went on and took the tape off. Now I take my DA, probably with some 80 grit, and shape it up. Shape it on up. Now what I do, I take some fiberglass, well not fiberglass filler, but some glazing putty. I'll be using this Evercoat glazing putty. And I just wipe a skim coat on top of this to smooth it on out. Then I could just sand it and flush it smooth. Feather edge everything. Glazing putty laid down. Now I just take my drill and drill my hole back out before I finish this off. I take some 180 and block it and finish it on off. There was a scratch here, that's why I put some glazing putty here. Got it down with the 180. And now I'll take some 180 on the DA. I'm just going to hit it. Try to feather edge all these runs and pinholes and imperfections. Let me show you the rest of it. See it run now. On these pieces here, I got to do the same. I'm going to take these chains off because I'm not going to hang it up. But you can see it run here. It's a run now. I'm going to hit all of it I can with the DA. But what I can't get, like up in here, I just do it by hand. Got some 180 folded in half. I'm just going back in the areas that I couldn't get with the DA by hand, so I want to square it off. Like this area here. I got to get around the edge. Everything sanded with the 180. You could tell from my hand, from the sanding dust, that they didn't put no clear on this. They just stopped with the Kandy because you could see the blue Kandy dust. So we need to clean these up before we take them back on the inside. I'm just going to wash them up with some soap and water. Then we'll get ready to move on. All my pieces back on the inside, staged up, ready to be shot with the high bill. I got a piece of wood on the back side of this to keep it in place. And on these small pieces, I got a screw here and a screw there. It'll hold it in place, keep it from flapping. Same with over here. Now I'll take my wax and grease remover and wipe these pieces down, then I'll shoot my high bill. Alright, the primer done dried. Now it's time to spray some guide coat on it so I can move on to the wet sanding. And I'm going to be using my flat black spray paint that I got earlier from Lowe's. I'm just going to lightly mist it on all the pieces. That's all you need. You just need something to go off of. It lets you know what you done sanded it, and it also lets you know the low spots. Got it guide coated. Also brought my side skirts back in. You can see it's a different tone primer than this here, but it's not gonna matter because I'm gonna put a foundation on it, a sealer, and it'll make it all one uniform color before I paint it with the base coat. About to start wet sanding now. Got my soapy water. I'm gonna be using 320. It's not gonna be a big problem me getting them scratches out, covering them scratches with the sealer. So I use 320 to make my sanding go a lot faster than using 400 or 600. Just gonna drop my pieces in, let them soak for a while. And I'm gonna be using a soft block and a rigid block, mainly on this flat area. The rest of them I'm gonna do it by hand. We're gonna be removing this guide coat. Sanding this down with the 320. Let me show you what the guide coat do for you. See those spots there? Them low spots, pinholes. The guide coat showing me that because you still can see the guide coat. So what I need to do, I need to fill those with some glazing putty. Some right here also. So let me take care of that. finished wet sanding. I just got these turned over so they can drip dry till I get started. And I got some cut through spots like that there. You gotta make sure, if you have those spots, you gotta make sure you seal it, because if you don't, that'll show up in your base coat. And I will be sealing it, but before I do that, I need to get my paint mix together. This is Cobalt Blue. Up in here, it's Cobalt Blue, the House of Color. That's from the previous painter. They had already mixed it up and started painting. But we also got some Oriental Blue that we're gonna mix with it. And I need to do all that before I start painting the car. So I want one uniform color, everything be the same color. We're gonna mix all this with the Cobalt Blue. So let me take it out the bags, then we'll get started mixing. Cobalt Blue. It's the Oriental Blue. We're just gonna start pouring them in the container, mixing it all together. We're gonna be putting at least 5 coats of Kandy on this here. This is my last quart I need to add. I almost filled up. This should be plenty. Go around the whole car and some. It's about $1,000 worth of material here, just in this bucket. That's not including the reducer or the activator that you got to mix with. Also think about the base coat and the clear coat and the primer. That's why Kandy paint jobs cost so much. One of these cans here can run you $100. Alright, let's get started prepping up for the primer. Not primer, but sealer. Before I cut you off, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. I'm pouring my mix back into my quart cans because it's a lot easier to handle in these smaller cans. I just mixed it all together in one big can so it'll be a consistent mix. I wrote pre-mix on the can so I won't forget. Let me know it's already mixed with Cobalt and Oriental Blue. Stage my pieces back up. I got the side skirts lifted up so I can get paint up under there. Also, so I won't be touching the stands and bridge. Got these set up the same way when I sprayed the primer. These also. Just finished wiping them down also with the purple clean strip. Now it's time to mix up my sealer. It's the House of Color KD 3000 gray. I'm gonna use it as a sealer. You can use it as a primer also. Just depends on how you mix it. I'm gonna mix it 4 to 1 to 1. 4 parts product, 1 part reducer, and 1 part activator. Coats of sealer. I had tinted the sealer just a tab. I'll be going with Oriental silver as the base coat by House of Color. Let me take you over here and show you. It's the BCO2. Let me mix it up and we'll spray it on. It's 2 to 1, 2 part product, 1 part reducer. actually 4 coats. I did 3 cover coats and 1 drop coat. I think I'm ready for the candy coat now. It's the candy coat now. It's the most scariest coat here, because one mistake be like all your work you done. You've done it from that. Gotta pretty much start over. This candy here mixes 2 to 1 to 1. 2 part product, 1 part reducer, 1 part activator. Let's go ahead and get it in the gun and spray it. Five coats of candy. No clear. Let me take you over here where the clear at. The owner had brought me 2 different brands. I got the ALLKANDY Wet Wet Plus. I also got the House of Color Show Clear. Trying to decide which clear I want to put on first, because I'm gonna do a flow coat. I asked him and he said it really don't matter, but I can't go wrong with either way I do it. I can't go wrong. So I might just put this House of Color on first, then once it dry, wet sand it and flow coat it with the ALLKANDY. Three coats of the House of Color Glamour Clear. I think I laid down pretty good. We're still gonna flow coat it. Got a little trash there. We're gonna flow coat it. I got my soapy water and my rigid block and soft block. I'm gonna put those in there. And I think I might use this 400. Yeah, let me cut this in half and we'll be using the 400. But that's the clear. We're gonna flow coat it and shoot some ALLKANDY wet on top of that. We're gonna get started on these side skirts first. You might can't see much orange peel, but it's there. Then you can see a little overspray trash. But let me show you, once I start sanding with this block, you'll be able to see it a lot better. You want to use a block on these flat areas here, because you don't want to dig in it with your hands with your fingerprints. You'll have your finger grooves in it. You want to use a rigid block. Let me leave it like that and wipe it off. Then you'll be able to see the orange peel a lot better. Let's let it dry, then I'll cut you back on. Now you can see the orange peel. This area here got to come down a lot more. But right here in the middle, it's good and flat. I also started on this one over here. You can see it a lot better because I did the whole top part. but I still gotta bring it down a lot more. Alright, let me finish up on these. These pieces here pretty much flat on the flat areas. I still gotta do this by hand around the back side, but the rest of the flat surface is flat, good to go. So I'll take my sandpaper off my block. I'm not gonna use the block anymore. Just gonna do the rest by hand and just tear this piece in half and go at it by hand. All my pieces sanded. Now I wipe them back down with some wax and grease remover, because if you don't, like this here, it's fingerprints or from my fingers, might have a reaction if I don't wipe it down. You can see fingerprints there. I'm just going to use this prep all. Wipe on, wipe off. I got my ALLKANDY Wet Plus here. I sprayed the house of color from the first go round. Now I'm going to top it off with this ALLKANDY.
never stop. Right from the bottom to the top, from the ground up, we never stop. Right from the